live at Allendale, Columbia with a preview of a Back to the 80s musical. And we've been saying that that was her era. And even she said that too. Well, get this. She also did an interview earlier with an 80s icon, Slash from Guns N' Roses. He's written a book about his career and very colorful life.
When I heard this, I laughed so hard that she was doing this interview. This is great. We should point out, though, as you listen to this interview, you might hear a little echo when Norma speaks. Slash has lost a lot of hearing during his musical career, as you can imagine with all that music. But let's take a look at Slash and Norma.
Listen, you know, I just have to tell you, you provided the soundtrack to my, junior high and high school career, I will say. All my friends liked watching you and listening to you in Guns N' Roses and whatnot, but you've come a long, long way from those days, haven't you?
I guess so. I just sort of been plodding along.
Yeah, well, you've been pretty successful at it.
Right. I have good survival skills.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Talk about that survival. Your book goes into detail about, living the rock and roll lifestyle and what it was like and the drugs and the money and the women. Do you look back on it and say, you know what, I wish some of that didn't happen? Or do you look back and say, I have no regrets, this made me who I am?
I have absolutely no regrets about any of it. A lot of it was a lot of fun. I mean, there was some really good times that went on throughout my life up to this point, and not that much has changed except for, I'm obviously not under the influence at this point, and really happy with that. It's not a big deal. I'm not struggling with it, and I'm married, and I have been, with the same woman for 10 years or 11 years at this point. But there's still, the rock and roll element of it will always ring true with me, and I'm obviously still playing and touring and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of things that I've just done, been there, done that, and probably done to such excess that there's really not much left to do with it.
Ah, okay.
And so I just keep moving on.
What's it like being a dad and a husband? When you were, with Guns N' Roses, you were just, you guys were so I don't know, rebels. You were such rebels.
Yeah.
And now here you are, and you're someone's dad. Like, what's that like?
But I mean, I think the image that everybody has of me as a rock guitarist and as a rebel is something that it's very one-dimensional. I haven't changed as a person. I haven't changed much at all. I guess in the book it sort of explains a lot of the stuff that I was doing and whatnot. But at this point in time, looking back on it, it's like I really haven't changed that much. I just don't think people ever gave me any credit for being what you would consider an intelligent person.
Yeah, well,
they just,
yeah, people are guilty of assuming that stars are just like you said, one-dimensional. That they have a life. You did some stuff with Chris Daughtry, which I find really interesting. Do you find it's harder for talent these days, for up-and-coming artists, to get discovered unless they go on one of these shows? And what do you think about this whole phenomenon?
Well, I don't think it's that. The industry has really changed a lot since I came into it, and obviously I came into it in the 80s. I'm sure at that point it had changed a lot since the 70s. But at this point, it's been so, in some ways, homogenized. It's the industry is so driven by people who don't have any idea what's good or what's not good, and they keep coming up with these different formulas for trying to make money and so on and so forth. And it's the nature of the beast. I think it's always been there. It's just evolved into what it is now. And I think for new bands to sort of, at this point, nobody's even buying records, so it's almost like you don't know exactly which way to turn. If you want to be a musician, it takes up, it's a 24/7 job.
Yeah,
and if you're going to do it properly, then you're going to have to make a living at it. Yeah. And I think it's really hard to figure out how you're supposed to go about doing that in this particular climate.
Slash, we got to go. I wish we could talk more with you.
I'm glad I could share that with you.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. And we're looking forward to reading the book and hearing more about your new band, Velvet Revolver, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for taking the time
thanks.
out.
Good talking to you. Cool.
Here's the one thing that hasn't changed about Slash. You still can't see his eyes. It's either the hair or the sunglasses that are in the way. I thought, oh, maybe, now that we're in 2007, we can see Slash's eyes. No.
Interesting, too, to hear his perspective that he said he didn't think people would think he would be intelligent enough to be able to write a book and, because they have this one view of him.
Well, and you know what I love? He's like, I don't regret a thing. Yeah. The drugs, the women, the craziness, the rock star, I don't regret a thing. It's hilarious.